Hi, everybody. It's meteorologist Joe Chaffee on this Saturday night as we watch a weakening line of severe thunderstorms move across New York City and now into the western half of Long Island and Connecticut. All the warnings are done with. There were numerous severe thunderstorm warnings earlier across much of western New Jersey, have long gone. As of 8 o'clock, there's a residual marine warning for the coastal waters. But this line of storms now has well passed its peak, and it's going to be weakening as we move through the next few hours, and it'll just ultimately dissipate by the time we get to midnight tonight. And going forward, just want to show you for Sunday, we have a marginal risk of severe weather across parts of the Midwest and Plain states back to about the Rockies, but here in the Northeast, the coastal areas of the Northeast, no probability for thunderstorms, and then you have, the chance for thunderstorms up to the north and to the south, but this is in lines of the typical weather that you would expect for the first part of July. Here's a system up in the Great Lakes that's forcing the first of two cold fronts to move on through. Each one is going to bring the humidity down just a bit. We've got this first one coming through here, and then there's a second one that's going to move through late on Monday, which is going to set up for a beautiful 4th of July as far as weather conditions are for the New York City down to Philadelphia, New Jersey, eastern Pennsylvania, southern New England, southeastern New York, and Long Island, with reasonable humidity levels, sunshine, temperatures in the low to mid 80s, just pretty much as picture perfect, I think, as you can get for this time of year, setting up for the 4th. Not too bad out through much of the Plain states today and into the Rockies. You can see there's not a whole lot of cloud cover there. And then out in the west, the low cloudiness, you can watch how it disappears as we go through the morning and into the afternoon hours in the western part of the United States along the coast of California. This, again, typical in terms of the summertime pattern overall. So let's look at the upper air because, we've been talking about the fact that there has been this persistent troughing in the east that has been there more often than not, with some ridging out in the western states. And as we move through in the long range, we'll see that trough reappear again. It pretty much stays in the east, and then toward the end of the week, we have a rather deep trough in the west and a rather in the east, and a strong ridge out in the west. So this signature that has been pretty much the story since the middle of May remains unchanged. All of this, by the way, you've got this very large Atlantic subtropical high that's building from the Azores back southwestward toward the southwest Atlantic. So that eventually may wind up playing some kind of role with any potential tropical development. And as we go into the long range, you'll notice that the bottom of that trough, at least on the GFS, kind of separates a bit and migrates back through Texas. Who knows how real this is? There is some ridging here in the east toward the end of the period, and this is a reflection of that tropical system that the GFS continues to insist on. And on this particular run, it brings it to the U.S. Now, I just want to emphasize at this right now, it's really just nonsense and speculation in terms of the model runs this deep into the long range. I mean, we're looking now at the middle of July, 2 weeks from now, so who knows? I've been pointing out that the troughing in the east is something to pay attention to, and it will be something we'll pay attention to as we go forward in time. And with respect to this system, now this is today's late afternoon run of the GFS, which really kind of went to town with this tropical system. I want to first go back. Let's go deeper into the tropics. Let's go out into the Atlantic region as a whole, because one of the things we are seeing is a major change in the upper air pattern in the tropical Atlantic. We are seeing that now in the form of, let me just roll it back here, and we're going to go into Wednesday of this week, and the National Hurricane Center has acknowledged the possibility of this system developing here toward the middle part and latter part of the week. And indeed, the GFS again develops some kind of closed surface low in the central Atlantic, which it takes west-northwestward north of the islands. But on this particular run, because of what it does with the upper air, it shoves it back, shoves it further west than some of the others. And I want to note, by the way, that the European, we can barely find a surface reflection with this, and we can barely find anything with respect to what the Canadian model is showing. But one of the things we're going to keep it that we're looking at, we pointed this out yesterday, and I want to show you again today. Wind shear is very important in the development of tropical systems. And what we have in the tropical Atlantic now is an expanding area of light wind shear. Wind shear, winds increasing with height. Tropical systems do not like that. So if we have light winds as we go up the atmosphere, this map shows you the wind shear from about 5,000 feet all the way up to about 25,000 feet. And it's showing light wind shear from the African coast all the way to the Leeward Islands. In particular, as you go further east, the wind shear is light, where there might be some kind of surface low development. And that L that you see there is the reflection of the tropical system, which the GFS goes to town with. Now, you know what? Let me see if I can get we'll get the water vapor imagery here of the tropical Atlantic, because I think that there's been a big change. We've been following this for many days and showing it to you. Here's our intertropical convergence zone, and you can see, you know, these tropical waves that are moving along. Nothing really here for the next 2 or 3 days is anything that we're concerned about. But one of the things that's happened is, if we go back a few days ago, you may remember we had 2 very strong upper air storms in the Atlantic extending very far to the south and creating strong westerly wind conditions aloft. Again, a hostile environment for tropical systems. Well, those upper air storms have now pulled away. Here's one of them pulling away to the northeast. So that is causing the wind shear conditions in the South Atlantic to relax. We do have quite a bit of dry air again, and you can see the darker brown areas that are generally to the north of 15 degrees north. On the whole, they've been shrinking in coverage and intensity. They've kind of expanded a little bit today, but I would suspect that we will start to see this area shrink even further as this stronger tropical wave moves off the African coast and begins to come into play later next week. So, you know, right now you can see the profile in terms of what's going on in the tropics. Everywhere else, there really isn't anything to worry about. So we'll finish off. Let's look at the west for my Western viewers. And, you know, we've been seeing that it's just kind of in typical summertime mode in the west, and that continues through next week. Pretty much everybody in the western half of the United States enjoying a pretty decent 4th of July. You get scattered thunderstorms that develop in the late afternoon and evening in the mountainous regions. You see them there through the week of July 10th. That pretty much continues. So there really isn't too much change with what is happening with the overall pattern out in the western U.S. Now, with this ridge building in the west, I would suspect to see an expansion of heat there across much of the west and southwest as we get into the next trough in the east later next week. So while that is going on, you'll probably see an increase in the heat in the west, while in the east it really isn't going to be too bad. But we'll look at the 2-meter temperatures here. This is for next Sunday, but I'll back it up for you. You've got hot air up in the northern Rockies, so the temperatures in the 90s and hundreds extending to the Dakotas and Montana. So that's part of the reflection of that upper high that's building out in the western states. And here it is on Sunday, by the way. You've got temperatures well up above 100, 110 in the inland areas, all the way up into northern California, and even up into the western part of Washington and into parts of Idaho. So this is a pretty extensive area of hot temperatures out in the west for the beginning of next week. I'm sorry, the following week. Kind of getting lost in the sauce here. So let's back up. Let me just show you this week. This week, you know, that's kind of normal. It's a little hot up there in the northern plains, and that continues through all of this week. Here's Friday. Here's Friday. Here's Saturday. temperatures in the 100 plus. Here's Sunday. Looks like it's a little less on Sunday, but still very hot. And Monday, July 10th, Tuesday, July 11th. That's probably the first day where it really begins to relax. And then Wednesday, July 12th. I don't have the 0Z because it starts to go to 12 hours apart, so I won't be able to show you the actual highs. But you get the idea of what we're dealing with going forward. So we'll keep our eyes on the tropics in the meantime and see how it plays out. You're going to see stuff on the internet regarding this because of what some of the models do from run to run. Please take it with a huge grain of salt, and anybody that's already speculating about something down out in the long range in terms of specific, it's really not useful. It isn't really appropriate in my view, given the volatile nature of weather patterns and what they are forecast to be and what they wind up being are normally two different things. So I hope you enjoy the rest of your 4th of July holiday weekend. We'll keep you updated on this tomorrow. Thank you for my new subscribers for joining me on my YouTube channel as always. And I appreciate your comments, observations, and questions and criticisms. If you have them, just post them in the comments section. And you can always check the latest website posts on meteorologistjoechaffee.com. And if you haven't done it already, like my Facebook page, Meteorologist Joe Chaffee. Have a good day.